Well guys, it is that time of year again. It's late August and it is time for the third annual late season crop tour. See just what kind of crops we gonna have this year. And let me tell you, this tour is gonna be a lot different than the one last year. See you after the intro. All right, everybody, we're going to start out here in our double crop soybean fields, mainly because, well, we're out here spraying today. So first segment I'm going to film. And just for the commenters a few videos ago about my do-rag here, no, this is not Alabama Crimson Tide. I would not defile my body with Alabama Crimson Tide. This is actually a Brushy State Mountain Penitentiary headband from over there in East Tennessee. But anyway, that's beside the point. Like I said, we're out here in our double crop soybeans, and I mean, they look beautiful right now. I mean, they're about waist tall, perfect height. I mean, you look at them, they are just starting to load up. I mean, we got some really good potential right here. You know, they look similar to other great double crop soybeans we've had in the past. You know, could easily be 45, 50 bushels per acre. Still got a long ways to go though, and it depends on a lot of factors. You know, what's going to drive a double crop soybean yield is moisture availability and sunlight availability. Well, for the past week, we've had plenty of sunlight availability. We're in our biggest heat wave of the year. Temperature's been approaching triple digits, got a high pressure system over us. Hadn't hardly been a cloud in sight all week long. So we're getting plenty of sunlight, but the sunlight's dwindling every day because the days are getting shorter and soybeans really need a lot of sunlight. Also, moisture availability is starting to dwindle. It's been about 14 days since we've seen a rain, but the majority of August, we saw some really good rains that replenished the soil profile, but with 100-degree temperatures, we're quickly losing our moisture reserves. So we're gonna need a few more rains, a few more good rains to get these beans along, and we're gonna need plenty of sunny weather to give the plants energy to fill out the pods, and preferably a little milder temperatures. Hot temperatures like this is going to speed up soybean maturity, which lessens how much time it's got to actually fill grain, and the less time it has to fill grain, the less yield there's going to be out here. The seed's not going to be quite as big, not going to be quite as heavy, not going to weigh as much. There's going to be a little bit less yield. So ideally from here on out, we'll get about an inch of rain per week, plenty of sunlight the rest of the week, and relatively mild temperatures with temperatures in the 80s to around 90, and then especially nighttime temperatures at 70 or below. If we do that, I mean, we could blow the top off these double crop soybeans. You know, could easily be 55 bushels or so, but overall our double crop soybeans look pretty much uniform all across the board. We've only got one variety of soybeans, Pioneer 47A64X. They all look, like 97% of my double crop soybean acres look just like this, just tabletop level, good height, good growth, good pod set. And like I said earlier, we're out here spraying today because of the rainy weather in August. We're starting to see a little bit of disease, and we want to definitely keep that at bay. But as you can tell, we've got full vegetative growth. We're starting to put out the very narrow top leaves, so the plant's done growing vegetatively. So the fungicide we're spraying today will protect the whole plant. But if you look at that spot right there at the tip of my thumb, that's frog eye leaf spot. There's another spot, a frog eye leaf spot. And traditionally, that's going to be our most yield limiting disease in soybeans. So we're coming in here with two modes of action on the fungicide to kill what's out here and keeping it from spreading. Should pretty much protect the soybean most of the way through grain field. But with this high humidity we're seeing, we've seen fogs in the mornings, you know, keeping moisture down in the canopy with warm temperatures, that's ideal. That's an ideal environment for disease to grow. So just starting to see disease, we're going to nip it in the bud, keep our plants healthy, maximum grain fill potential, and really expecting big things out of these beans this year. So enough time on these double crop soybeans. Let's go look at some of our full season beans. And you talking about something gonna bring a smile to my face, gonna be full season beans. All right, here we are in our full season soybeans, and man, I don't think I've ever had a soybean crop that looks like this, looks this good. I mean, you look at it, it's loaded with pods top to bottom, and you know, they're getting close to filling out. They're not done yet. I'd say they probably got at least another 2 more weeks before they're done, but they're coming along quickly. But just what I said in with my double crop soybeans, this heat is pushing them to maturity, and it's going to take a little bit off the top end. But even that being said, I think we're still going to have some fantastic beans. Starting to get a little defoliation on the leaves. Got some critters in here starting to defoliate a little bit. Nothing severe by any means. Not seeing any frog eye or fungicide. Did real good. Some I have seen in some spots. We got a little bit of SDS just starting to pop up. Just a few plants here and there. Nothing major. I think I see a spot right over here. Show you what it looks like. Man, these things are tough to walk through. Yeah, there's a plant there with SDS. There's really not anything we can do for SDS. It's a soil-borne disease, and you really only see it in good beans and good growing conditions. But it infects the plant early in its life, and no amount of fungicide application is going to cure that. But we only got say one plant there, one plant over there, another one there, one there. Just a few random scattered plants. Hurt yield just a little bit, but really not noticeable, as little as we're seeing out here. So I'm going to attempt to do some yield estimates on soybeans. I've never been able to do an accurate yield estimate. No matter how conservative I am, it still widely overestimates yields. But we'll pull 3 plants here, count pods, and just try to do a yield estimate and show you what might be possible if my dreams do come true. All right, here's 3 plants I just pulled at random right here and stripped all the leaves off. And yes, sir, they are loaded up. Especially pay attention to this plant right here, up here in the top. That ain't nothing but 4 bean pods right up there. But anyway, we planted 140,000 seeds per acre, so I didn't do a stand count. I know we got a good germination, but I'm just going to use a plant population of 100,000 plants per acre. I know we got more out there, but on my soybeans, I really like to be conservative on my estimates to try and get a little bit more accuracy. So anyway, I'm going to strip all these pods off, count them, and get back to you with the data. All right, after stripping all the plants, here's what we got. We've got 20 4-bean plods, 348 3-bean plods, 83 2-bean pods, and 11 1-bean plods. Gives us a total seed count of 1,301 soybeans on 3 plants. Now, just doing some calculation. All right, 1,301 soybeans on 3 plants, so divide that by 3. Gives us an average number of 434 soybeans per plant. Multiply that, we said we're going to use 100,000 population, gives us 43.3 million soybean seeds per acre, and we'll just use 3,000 seeds per pound. That's a little bit on the small size for soybeans. I mean, I fully expect these, if we get another rain or so, to be 2,600 seeds per pound, but we'll just use 3,000 seeds per pound divided by 3,000. That gives us basically 14,455 pounds per acre, and there's 60 pounds in a bushel, so divide that by 60. 241 bushels per acre on soybeans is what this figures out to. Now, that's not going to happen. Let's say we divided that by 2. That gives us 120 bushels per acre on soybeans. I don't see that happening. I would be ecstatic if it did, but I don't see that happening. I would absolutely love to see 100 bushels an acre. I'd love to break the 100 bushels per acre mark. I've seen it in spots in the field, but I've not seen it for a field average. I think our highest field average has been about 88 bushels per acre, which I'll still be plenty happy with that. Don't get me wrong, because that's a pretty tough accomplishment. But bottom line is we got some good beans out here. I don't have any idea how good they're going to be, but they're going to be good. And they're going to be really, really, really good if we can catch another rain or two to fill out a lot of these pods. They're approaching R6 now. R6.5 is going to be maturity. But a lot of these younger pods, they still got some filling out to do. I wouldn't quite eat these yet for edamame. Maybe a few of these are mature enough to have for some edamame, but here in a couple of weeks I'll probably come out here picking a mess and cooking some edamame. It's always one of my favorite treats during the fall. But that just goes to show you, it's almost just like cotton. It's almost impossible to estimate soybean yield. Any estimates you're going to come up with are going to be widely overestimating what you actually got. But overall, I'm tickled. I can't wait to bring my combine out here and see what they're going to do. So I think I'm going to be really happy, especially, you know, considering soybeans bringing, you know, close to $14 a bushel. I imagine my banker's going to be pretty happy too. All right, we look at this. I know y'all want to see some corn, so we'll check into that next. All right, now we're getting to the crops I know everybody's most interested in and wants to see. So we're here in our corn crop, and starting off with Pioneer 1464 up here in Madison County on some better ground. What we're going to start with, and looking at an ear I pulled, you can see that milk line right in there is almost all the way down. So this corn is just about done. Hasn't quite hit black layer yet, but probably will here in the next few days, especially with these elevated temperatures. These elevated temperatures definitely pushing this corn towards the finish line quicker than what we would like for maximum yield. We have lost a little bit of yield just due to it being too hot for the corn and pushing that maturity. But hey, if all we got was a week of super hot weather during the summer here in Tennessee, I'll take that, because basically ever since pollination, you know, somewhere there around the middle, late part of June, we've had really, really good weather for corn production. Not ideal weather, not the best I've ever seen, but overall in general, definitely above average weather, good weather, and plenty of moisture to carry this corn crop along. So it hasn't really struggled for moisture much. And then looking at the corn leaves, we're starting to see just a hint of southern rust pop up on the corn leaves. That means that the fungicide that we applied there in July has played out, and other spots in the field that we've missed, I've seen a lot more southern rust in there. So we definitely did the right thing by waiting on till brown silk to apply our fungicide, because we pretty much protected the plant almost all the way up until black layer, the most critical time of the corn plant. So fungicide did a fantastic job and definitely made the right call on that. So anyway, what we really care about now is doing some yield estimates, getting a rough idea of what we got out here. I've already got measured out 1/1000th of an acre, which would be 13 feet 9 inches on 38-inch rows, and we've got a population of 28,000. So I'm gonna pick 3 random ears here. I'm gonna pick the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st ear, and we'll count some kernels and see what kind of yield estimate we come up with. So anyway, here's plant number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Ooh, that's a runt ear there. But that's the 14th. Won't pick it. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I'm gonna peel these back, count rows around and kernels long, and come back with a yield estimate for you. All right, here's the three ears right here, including this runt. We got 16 around 30, 16 around 43, and 16 around 39 right here. So that gives us an average rows around of 16, and then and our row length is averaging a hair over 37 kernels. So figuring on 28,000 population, which is what we got, and figuring 80,000 kernels per bushel, which is a pretty heavy grain, gives us an average yield of 207. And you know, this runt is counting for 1/3, which I know not 1/3 of the ears here are not runts. So I'd say yield in this spot would definitely be greater than 207. Now, if we use 75,000 kernels per bushel, which with the grain field period that we had, as healthy as the corn plants still look, and still green, well below the leaf ear, just say we get 75,000 kernels per bushel, that brings us up to what, 222 bushels per acre, and on 38-inch rows with, in this spot, about 180 pounds of nitrogen applied, well over 1 bushel per pound of nitrogen applied. That's really good. I mean, this is a heck of a lot different than it was last year. I mean, last year at this time, I was standing in corn that you could see the horizon. The corn was already dead. Tops had already started coming out, from the drought. I was struggling to find ears on the plants. And we came up with, some, 50 and 60 bushel per acre averages last year as opposed to this year. I mean, I would have been shocked to see an ear this big last year. So overall in this spot, this 1464 doesn't make a big of a round of cob as what DeKalb does, but this is a pretty nice size ear. I've seen bigger on Pioneer, but for this population, I'd say this is pretty nice size, and yields well over 200 bushels per acre potential here. I feel really good about this corn. So, all right, guys, now it's time to get to the exciting part of the tour. Well, exciting in my mind anyway. Perhaps my favorite crop, and possibly the best cotton I have ever grown. We're over here on Dunlap Farm, got 43 acres of cotton here. This was our very first planted cotton. If you've been following us all year long, you'll know that this is the little bit of cotton that I did not have to replant. Came off to a good start, and it's been on time all year long, and it is just looking absolutely phenomenal. Like, I cannot even describe how good this cotton looks. Might still not yield what I think it's going to yield, but right now I'm feeling good. But I've been saying all year long how cotton was laid, and just I don't know if it's going to have time to catch up. But if you look at this cotton here, this was planted what, May 9th, May 10th, something like that. I can't quite remember, but anyway, it's pretty much bloomed out. You see a couple scattered blooms out here on the very end of some lateral branches and everything, but I mean up here in the top, I mean the very tip top square has bloomed. Now the plant's probably going to kick a lot of this top fruit off, like that one right there, but I mean, this cotton, we're not worried about maturity on this cotton. This cotton has made full advantage of the growing season, and it has had plenty of time to bloom and hold fruit up. And then looking down here in the canopy, I mean, this stuff is just, I mean, there's bolls everywhere. There's another square right there that got aborted. You would just push on it and it just comes right off. But that's just because the cotton plant has got as much on there as what it can physically put on. Now this variety here is Phytogen 360, one of my favorite varieties, and it might not have on any more fruit than other varieties, but just the way that it puts the fruit on the plant, it's more of a stove top plant. The branches don't go out quite as far, and it sets the fruit a little bit closer to the center of the plant. It just gives you the illusion that it looks like it's just got a ton of bolls on it. But looking here on the ground, you can see it's chunked a lot off. That's completely natural for cotton. I mean, cotton just cannot keep all the fruit that it puts on. It just cannot do it. I mean, if you look here, just going down the row, it looks kind of like we got twin rows. And that's because this cotton's got so many bolls on it, it's heavy and it's leaning. Like this stalk is leaning this way, and then this stalk right here is leaning this way. I mean, that's how much it's actually got on it. Anyway, I can stand here for probably the next 20 minutes talking about this cotton variety, but it'd make for a really long crop tour video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to randomly pick a plant here, not going to cherry pick one, and take it back to the truck, strip the leaves off of it to show you just how much fruit it's actually got on there. Also, this field right here, my local University of Tennessee extension agent pulled a plant out of this field and took it to the Tennessee State Fair. This variety from this field actually wound up placing second over the whole state for cotton, so pretty impressed about that. All right, here's the plant after I stripped all the leaves off there. As you can tell, I mean, there's bolls everywhere. And like I said, I didn't cherry pick this plant from, a very thin spot or whatever. This is what all 37,000 plants per acre out there look like. You know, we got our main branch nodes right here. You know, we got 2 positions holding on just about every branch. Well, this one got 3 positions. Look at the bowls. I mean, we got 5-lock bowls everywhere. There's a 4-lock, another 4-lock. I mean, this cotton is loaded up. And then we got, I don't know what these branches are called, but they're branches separate from the main stalk that start branching out like another stalk. And you see we've got 2 of those type of branches here. And, you know, they're loaded up with bowls. You can tell what I kind of mean by stovepipe cotton. You see how all these bowls are clustered a lot closer to the stalk, whereas other varieties, and I'll show you Delta Pine later on, you know, it kind of puts them farther out away from the main stalk. That's one thing that makes this variety look so good. And here we are, you know, end of August. You know, we still got easily another 5, possibly 6 weeks of growing weather that cotton can actually do some maturing. So there's not going to be any problem at all getting all of this cotton matured, defoliated, and opened up. And this field right here, when it comes time to harvest, is going to be absolutely beautiful. Plus, this variety is a kind of a big, got big fluffy bowls on there. It's not real tight in the bowl, kind of real showy, whatever. I mean, this field is going to look like Christmas in October whenever we get this cotton ready to harvest. Now, I wish all 550 acres looked like this, but unfortunately we had to do a whole bunch of replanting, about 80% of my acres this spring, and the rest of cotton does not look like this. I think it still looks good, but it's just not near as far along. So, all right, back to corn. We're out here on our very earliest planted corn, and what should be our earliest maturing corn. And looking at it, see that milk line's not quite all the way down to there to the cob, which is actually kind of surprising. I was definitely expecting it to be fully mature by this time, but just looking at the base of the kernel, I mean, we're just starting to see black layer form. So kind of concerning the yield, because with the milk line hadn't made it all the way to cob, that means this kernel is not completely filled all the way up with starch. But what I suspect has happened is last 7 days it has just been ungodly hot. I mean, with temperatures approaching 100 degrees, and that just sped up the maturity of the corn and probably got it to mature and got the corn to black layer just a little prematurely before it had a chance to fill these kernels all the way up with starch, which could potentially hurt yield. Well, I know the heat definitely did hurt yield. If we weren't at black layer before the heat started, you know, we definitely lost some yield. But the fact that it's just now getting the black layer, even with this insane amount of heat we've had this week, is also good for yield, because I would expected this stuff to black layer at least a week ago, if not 10 days ago, based upon the planting date. So that means that it did have an extended growing season. So ultimately, yield might not have been hurt that much. We just won't know until we get the combine in here. We don't know what each of these kernels weighs. But anyway, this variety is a DeKalb 6599. So we're on one of our poor farms. Actually, I expect this farm to be our lowest yield, you know, based upon historical data. This is just not a very good farm, but we're kind of in an average spot of the field. Not definitely not the best spot of the fields, but also not one of the worst spots of the field. So hopefully this gives us a pretty good idea of what the average potential for this field is. But anyway, I've measured off 1/1000th of an acre, 13 feet 9 inches. We got an average of 25,000 plants in this spot, so we're going to pull the 7th, 14th, and 21st ear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, let me do some quick math and I'll get back with you. All right, here's 3 years right here. 1836, 1838, 1637 around. So it gives us an average round of 17.33 and an average length of 37 kernels per row. And because milk line didn't make it all the way down to the cob, I'm just going to use 90,000 kernels per bushel. I don't know what the kernel weight's going to be. It could be lighter, could be heavier, I don't know. But anyway, at 25,000 plants per acre, 90,000 kernels per bushel, this gives us an average yield of 178 bushels per acre, which on 38-inch rows on extremely poor hill ground, you know, this corn, we only applied probably about 150 pounds of nitrogen in this one spot just because the yield potential is not that great. You know, almost 180 bushel corn is just outstanding. And if these kernels are heavier than what I think, let's just say 80,000 kernels per bushel, that bumps our yield up to 200 bushels per acre. So I don't think we've ever seen this kind of yield potential on corn on this farm. So I'm extremely pleased. You know, if this is going to be our lowest yielding corn on our entire farm, which I expect this farm to be, 178 bushels per acre. Wow. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the decal, really excited about our corn crop this year, the potential, and I don't think it's going to be a record year for us for other reasons, but I do think it's definitely going to be, I definitely think it's going to be towards the top as far as what we've made on corn, and we've done it with minimal inputs, so our cost per acre is really low. So you know, looking at our plants again, just starting to see southern rust come in, but again, we're at black layers, so doesn't matter. The corn is pretty much done. So anyway, let's go to let's look at this same variety but in a really good spot of the field and see what the potential is there. Now on this channel, we just don't show you all the good stuff where everything's roses and unicorns. We also show you the bad stuff, and this spot right here is why I think, you know, we're not going to have record overall yields. You know, we're here on the inrows of the field, and unfortunately we got a lot more places like this than what I'd like in a year. Just where we got a real thin stand for whatever reason. Something happened during planting. I mean, we were planting into good conditions, I thought, but for whatever reason, around the edges of, you know, several of our fields, you know, we've got patches like this where we just got a real thin stand. And considering the small field size that we got, you know, the outside edges around the field constitute quite a bit of area in some cases, and you know, places like this really going to bring down a field average in a hurry. So while out in the middle of the field, I think we're going to have fantastic corn. You get here around the edges, it's going to bring the overall average down. But overall, just after, you know, after looking at all my corn, I'd guess that spots like this constitute maybe around 5% of my acres. But when you have, you know, a really low yield, you know, this spot right here, I mean, it might only be like 20 bushels per acre. You know, you get low spots like that, 5% of your yield, really going to bring down the overall farm average. All right, one of the better spots of the field, same variety, but we're on some flat ground with quite a bit deeper soils. And anyway, got a plant population here, 29,000. These cobs average 16.67 around, had 2 16s and 1 18, and then 39 kernels long, and figured 80,000 kernels per bushel, which we're in a better spot of the field, so I feel confident that gives us a average yield of 236 bushels per acre in this spot. You know, if kernel size is even bigger, say 75,000, you know, that yield's just going to go up, you know, probably going to be up there around 250 bushels per acre. So bad farm. Our average spot, you know, came in at 175, possibly 200. Better spots of the field, you know, 236, possibly even higher. Gonna be some good corn here. All right, before we get to our other corn, I thought I'd start in a very poor part of the field where we just don't expect much corn, therefore we don't put very much inputs. Anyway, got 21,000 population here on this. Realistically, this little piece of ground shouldn't even be in corn just because almost no topsoil, highly eroded, and, you know, we're still in the process of building it back up. But anyway, 21,000 population. But anyway, got 2 16s and 1 18 around, averaging 36 kernels long, 21,000 populations, figuring 90,000 kernels per bushel, comes in an average yield of 140. For this piece of ground, that's exceptional. I mean, it doesn't sound like a good number to a lot of y'all, but in this little area where we don't expect hardly anything, 140 fantastic. And on this spot, with that planting rate, we would have applied about 110 pounds of nitrogen per acre. So we're well over 1 bushel of corn produced per pound of nitrogen, which means we got a very efficient use of our nitrogen. So this kind of gives you a snapshot of our worst farm, the good, the average, and the bad areas of the farm. You know, exceptional yields for the type of ground that we're putting on. And like I said, all the rest of our ground is at least like this, if not better. So it's going to be a big corn year. All right, another stop back out here in the cotton field. What we're in now is some of our later replanted cotton, and this is the cotton I've been worried about most all year, just not having enough growing season to finish out because it was planted late and then had, you know, less than optimal conditions in June to get up and grow good. And I just, you know, we got a good stand. I just didn't think we're going to have enough long enough growing season. See, here in West Tennessee, we're about the northernmost latitude that cotton is grown, and even with extremely short season varieties, so sometimes we still just don't have enough growing season. You know, it's like you guys, you know, up in Minnesota, you know, planting, you know, 100-day corn varieties, you know, just trying to hit black layer before first frost. Well, it's kind of the same situation with cotton here in West Tennessee. And anyway, this week the cotton has advanced pretty rapidly. I mean, we've had highs around 100, lows in the mid 70s, been picking up about 27, 28 DD60s per day. And you know, this cotton has definitely played some catch up. But as you see, it's just starting to bloom in the top. So look at this plant here. All right, first position squared white bloom bloomed this morning, and we're 2 nodes above white flower. So here at the very tip top of the plant, it still hadn't bloomed yet. Now this bloom right here got very little chance of making a harvestable bowl, because it takes approximately 800 DD60s to go from bloom to a mature bowl. Like I said, this week we've been picking up 27, 28, but next week high is supposed to be in the 80s, lows around 65. You know, we might want to be picking up, you know, 15, 18 DD60s per day. So on average, with an average temperature of 90 for your high and 70 for your low, it takes about 40 days to go from a bloom to a harvestable bowl. Not an open bowl, but one that's mature enough that it can be opened up with bowl openers and actually picked. So, you know, what's bloomed probably a lot to this week, unless we just have an exceptionally warm September and a warm early part of October, most likely is probably not going to make a harvestable bowl. However, I have seen in the past that cotton knows what time of year it is, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily take 800 DD60 to make a harvestable bowl. It varies on a lot of things. So while a few years ago I'd be really concerned about this cotton making top yield, I've gone through enough years in this kind of situation that cotton knows when it's time to go ahead and get mature, and somehow, some way, it does speed things up on maturing the bowl. But anyway, we're right here. We're in Delta Pine 2115, first year I've ever planted this, and it's not as impressive as my Phytogen 360, both what I showed you earlier and my replanted, just because it puts the fruit farther away from the stalk. But you know, there's plenty of bowls on this. Definitely plenty of bowls on this. Now, how many of these actually make and mature, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. And looking on the ground, you don't see near the squares on the ground that we did in the Phytogen, because, well, this cotton is just now getting to the point to where, you know, it's starting to kick a bunch of squares off. So a lot of these that have just bloomed, you know, just like that one right there, it just popped right off. You know, some of these up here on top, you know, definitely not going to make it into the picker, because the plant is shedding them, because it's got pretty much all it can handle. On another note, we're out here in the middle of our Utrisha plots, where we sprayed Utrisha on early cotton, and Utrisha is a Corteva product that uses bacteria to sequester nitrogen out of the atmosphere and put it in a plant available form to the plants. So we got replicated plots on this. We also got it on corn, which I'll show you later on. Just looking at my plots here, I got 12 row plots. I'm not seeing any visible difference whatsoever in the cotton from the treated and the untreated. Here from ground, it looks exactly the same. Now we had pulled some tissue tests that did show a small increase in nitrogen concentration in the Utrisha plots over the unchecked plots, but visually I'm just not seeing it. But what's going to tell the truth is when we pick it, weigh our modules, and see if there are any extra pounds. And here in just a minute, I'm going to put my drone up in there, see if we can see any visual difference from overhead view. So anyway, let me pull up a stalk of this cotton, take it back over the truck, shed the leaves off of it, and show you a little bit better what's going on. All right, here's the plant after we got it all stripped off. So you can tell it looks a lot different. You see how the fruit is farther away from your main stalk, and here on this plant, and I've seen this over quite a bit of my replanted cotton, right here in the center, your lower branches, for whatever reason, it aborted some fruit. So we lost a first position bowl here, first position here, and second position on this branch. On this branch, we lost first and second positions. So that's a lot of our money making bowls. It is trying to make up for it, but a lot of this fruit is later and just don't know if it's going to make it. I mean, look how small, these are right here, whereas we should have some big bowls down here. Now, there's still a really good amount of fruit on this plant. It's just a matter of question, are we going to have enough growing season to get it mature and be able to pick it? I just don't know. Regardless, I think this is going to be some good cotton. Don't think it's going to be anything awesome or spectacular, but I mean, can it make 1,000 pounds? Yeah, I think it can easily make 1,000 pounds unless we just have a really early frost. Can it make 1,100, 1,200? I don't know. I mean, I think the possibility might be there. It's just going to have to take some things fall in line to make it happen. We just need an extended growing season, bottom line. All right, let's put that drone up in there and look at the Utrisha plots. All right, let's take off and see what it looks like. All right, I've got the plots pretty much centered in the frame from one edge to the other, and I mean, I'm not seeing any differences in color or anything like that. I mean, it looks all the same to me. You can see a little bit of sprayer blight there where I was spraying, ran over just a little bit of cotton. Now we're going up the hill, getting in a little bit thinner part of the field. And like I said, I alternated these 12 rows treated, 12 rows untreated 4 times across the field. So that on the right, we're getting into some thinner ground, and I'm not seeing any color difference whatsoever, none at all. That doesn't mean nutrition's not working, it won't pay. It's just that right now we can't see any kind of differences in it. All right, out here in another decal field, I can't remember the number. I think it's 65.99 or 69.99. I'll have to check back on my records, but I'll put it here on the screen. Anyway, just picked 3 random ears. Got one short one, but fat, 18 around, 32 long. Got a huge one here in the middle, 18 around and 41 long. And then got a average size one, 16 around and 42 long. So, but anyway, in this spot we got a population of 27,000 plants per acre. We're on a very productive hill farm, kind of in an average spot on that farm. So this is kind of what I expect the whole farm to do. But anyway, I forgot my calculator left in the truck, but anyway, the final yield, I'm gonna put it right here on the screen, and that's figuring at 80,000 kernels per bushel. So as you can see, the big yields keep on staying big. All right, one last spot on the crop tour. I want to show you the corn Utrisha plots and see if we can see any kind of visual response in that. All right, I'm gonna have to make this quick because my battery on my camera is about to die, but we're over here on our last stop. I believe this is decalb, the same variety we just looked at. I have to look at my records again, but this is, we're standing right in the midst of our Utrisha plots on corn. This row right here is treated. This row right here is untreated. We got 12 row plots here in this field, and visually looking side by side, treated and untreated, visually can't really see much difference at all. However, the tissue test that we had pulled did show a significantly an increased concentration of nitrogen in the treated versus the untreated. Now, how that translates to yield, I don't know. We applied this late enough that I really don't think the Utrisha would have impacted kernel count, so not going to waste time pulling ears and doing a yield check that way. I think where the Utrisha, if it is going to impact yield, is going to have a greater kernel weight on the corn that was treated versus untreated. Now, I did put my drone up in the air, and from the air it looks like you can see some faint differences. You can kind of see some striping in the field, and it looks like that they're about 12 rows wide and corresponds to where I sprayed and didn't spray. So visually it looks like they're from a bird's eye view, there might be some difference to it, but ultimately, you know, it really doesn't matter what it looks like. It all matters what the scale at the granary is going to say. Does the Utrisha actually weigh more and yield more than the untreated? I don't know, but anyway, here in a few weeks we'll have our combine out here. We got scales on the grain cart, and I will be sure to let you know the results of it then. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this year's crop tour. You know, overall summary, soybeans, I think we've got to stand a real good chance of setting some record yields on soybeans. Cotton and corn, overall, probably not going to be a record yield there, but I do think we've got extremely good corn and extremely good cotton. I just don't think that we're going to set a new farm record. You know, corn is pretty much done. It's going to be what it's going to be. Cotton, the jury's still out on cotton. You know, we can, just depending on the weather in September and October, we can go from a good crop to a really awesome crop. It just depends on how many heat units we accumulate in September and October. Depends on when that first frost is, if we have to defoliate before it's actually time or not. You know, there's still a lot of growing season left on the cotton. But we do have the bowl set, we do have the fruit there. All we need is just Mother Nature to cooperate. So anyway, guys, probably got another video or two before harvest starts, but it's right around the corner. Man, I'm excited to get on that combine, start seeing some of this corn going in the grain bin and getting this harvest started. It should be a lot more exciting harvest than it was last year. We don't have extreme drought damaged corn to deal with. We got a new module picker that we get to try out on our farm this year, plus could set some records on soybeans. I think it's going to be a really exciting harvest. Can't wait to bring y'all along, can't wait to get started on it. So looks like all our hard work this year is going to pay off. So anyway, guys, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you in the next one.